Hi everybody, Captain Bill Saiff III here with the Saiff Charter fishing fleet. Here's a tip on rigging hook harnesses for flies behind flashers. Everybody's been asking for this on YouTube. I'm going to show you the right way to do it. So get your pens, get your paper out. You're going to want to take notes on how we set this up. The devil is always in the detail. We're going to tie a fly that's designed to go behind an 8-inch Pro Troll flasher. When we're tying behind an 8-inch Pro Troll flasher, we keep the fly at 21 to 22 inches. Extremely important that we standardize across the 8 boats in our fleet. 21 to 22 inches behind the 8-inch, 36 inches behind the 11-inch paddle. So we're going to tie that. First thing we're going to start with is either 40-pound test or 50-pound test Segaur fluorocarbon line. Just going to clip it here. I'm going to take a lot more line than I actually need to snell the hook and put this together. Today we're going to tie a Pro-Am fly because that's the #1 color fly that we use in the Saiff Charter fleet. And what we've got here is a washed out skirt. We make sure that when these start to blanch out in the sun and the color starts to wash out of them from being run and been in a lot of fish's mouths, that we roll these flies out and replace them with a skirt that looks good. But we'll save the underlayment off that old skirt, or sometimes we'll take a mirage fly, which has got a lot of translucent colors in it, and we'll skirt that up underneath the top of that fly so that it pulses better. You got a lot more material in the water, it pulses better behind that flasher. So that's what we're going to tie today. And what we're going to use is a treble and a single octopus hook. Now the hooks that we're using, very important, and I want you to remember this name, ADDYA, ADDYA. We've used everything in the hook business. This is as good as it gets. Heavy in the saltwater market, if you're a freshwater salmon fisherman, you're not going to recognize that name, but I promise you, write that down in your tablet because ADDYA, ADDYA hooks. Heavy name in saltwater market, but it is going to take the freshwater fishing market by storm because they're the right tensile strength, they're the right hook gap, and the wire of that hook is thin enough to penetrate the jawbone of a king salmon during the staging time period and hold that fish on that flasher fly combination. And when you're looking at one of these hooks, you're going to notice that this hook right here, as it comes up to the eyelet and it comes down to this hook point, that's all one piece. Over here on the back side, this hook, this point on the hook, is welded on to that 2-piece system after the fact. The reason I'm showing you that is because it's critical in how we make the tie. If you look at the eyelet, you can see that that eyelet does not come dead center of the shank. It's off to one side, and that's going to be important as we start to tie this. I don't care which way you go down through the eyelet with your fishing line. My suggestion is come down through the eyelet with your monofilament and pinch it against the hook shank with your finger. Once it's in position, you're going to take that line and you're going to wrap it around that eyelet, and you're just going to keep balling it up. You're going to use 9 or 10 wraps down the hook shank, and this is going to be how you snell that hook. Once we get around that, this is where it's critical. We want to bring the lead edge of this line up the flat side of the hook so that the monofilament comes out the recessed side of this hook. The reason is that now that hook's going to pull straight behind the flasher. If you come the opposite way, put that line through, and now it's coming up the flat side, the pressure of that is not down the spine of the hook, so the hook is going to kick like this in your skirt. The problem with that is, and again, the devil's in the detail, the problem with that hook kicking is now when a king comes in, if he doesn't take it square off the back side, instead of getting 3 of those hook points from the treble in his maw, he may only get 1. And that could spell the difference in a fish coming off at 400 feet or actually having the smiling face of a client because you just landed a 30-pounder. So we're going to come up the flat side. We're going to come up the recess side and we're going to pull that tight. Now you'll notice that there's actually no knot in that hook. There's no knot at all. That snell will hold in just that fashion, and that's what it's going to look like on that hook. You just tighten it up and it cinches down on itself and it's pulling off the center of that treble. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this end and we're going to put 2 beads. Because this is a green skirted fly, I'm going to color coordinate with a green bead and probably an orange bead. You know, a lot of fishermen want that blood factor somewhere in the bait, that little bit of orange. And now that treble hook is sitting with 2 beads on top of it like so. Now when it comes time to snell our single hook, what I prefer is a number 4 ADDYA octopus. They do make these fast strike PowerPoint 2-packs where it comes loaded with a number 1 treble and a number 5 octopus. Nothing wrong with that. I just prefer the octopus that's a little bit smaller. I like to tie the number 4. Once we get that number 4, we're going to take that lead end again and we're going to put that line up through the eyelet. We're going to pull it straight up until the belly of that octopus is even with the 2 beads. Once it's even in that position, we're going to again wrap that 40-pound test fluorocarbon around the shank of that hook and the line. Again, 9, 10, 11 wraps. I like to have it a considerable distance down the shank of that hook because it makes the entire rig flow straight and stiff behind the flasher. Then as the flasher kicks, you get immediate response from your fly. Now that that's in position, you can see how those 2 hooks lie. You got your treble here and you've got your octopus off to the side. This is your insurance hook. You're going to hold them on a strong treble like this, but believe me, if that octopus hook point gets around the jawbone on the king, you can drag them all the way back to the pier. That fish is not coming off unless you break the line. Once that's in position, your flies come like this. You can see the winding and the red skirt right here around the neck of the fly. I don't prefer to tie the fly in this pattern. I like to invert it because when you invert it, you can see how the top of this fly material billows. That makes that pulse more in the water. We all tie our flies the same way here in the Saiff Charter fleet, and again, we do that because we want consistency. Now I'm going to take that worn out skirt or a mirage skirt and I'm going to put the monofilament into the fly and I'm going to thread that on and in position over the hooks. Once that's on, I'm going to take the new skirt and I'm going to drop it inverted over the top of that old skirt, and that's going to make it extra bushy. But look at this. What I just showed you to do with those size hooks, perfect placement. You can notice the treble right here within 1/4 to 1/2 inch of the back of the skirt, and here's the single octopus coming out the side. I'm telling you, that spells bad medicine on kings. Now here's the next critical point. When you're measuring your fly and your distance behind the flasher, you measure from the end of the hook point. So put the end of the hook point on your tape and pinch the line at 21 inches. That's what we're doing right here on our tape. We're pinching that line at 21 inches. Once that's in position, we hold that at 21, we make a loop. All we're doing here is an overhand knot. Simple, but like everything we've learned from the time we're kids in this fishing business, when it comes time to cinch that down, the number 1 enemy to fluorocarbon and monofilament is heat and temperature. So you always wet your knot before you snug that down. Once that's in position, you're going to trim the tail end of this. And now that fly is at 21 inches. It's double skirted, so it's got a lot of extra appeal. And the snelling of those 2 hooks on the line are absolutely perfect. And that's how the Saiff Charter fleet hooks, holds, and lands the monster kings that we do each season. The devil's in the detail. My mates have heard it a million times on the boat. Pay close attention to what I do, because there's not one thing that occurs on these boats that's not for a very good reason. You take care of the details, and you're going to be the guy who comes to the dock each and every day with the biggest and best catch of fish. I'm Bill Saiff III. That's your Saiff Charter fishing tip on how to tie a snelled hook system for flies behind flashers.